Pack your ghetto belongings and get out. You're fired, girl. Karen Matthews swept her hand across the desk. Family photos crashed to the floor of St. Catherine's ICU nurses station. Amara Johnson watched her daughter's medical school graduation photo slide under Karen's designer heel. Glass cracked. "Security's coming," Karen announced loudly. 12 staff members turned to stare. 3 patient families looked up from the waiting area. Someone started recording. Amara knelt, gathering scattered items, a coffee mug, prescription glasses, car keys with a platinum credit card attached. Her navy scrubs wrinkled from 16 hours on shift. Natural hair pulled back simply. She stood slowly, brushing glass fragments from the photo frame. No one would guess she'd spent this morning reviewing quarterly revenue reports. Have you ever been so publicly humiliated that everyone assumed you were powerless, but you held the ultimate trump card? 20 minutes earlier, Amara had arrived for her 3 p.m. shift. As always, 15 minutes early. She'd been reviewing patient charts when Karen approached with purposeful strides. "I don't care about your so-called experience," Karen declared, arms crossed. Her voice projected across the unit. "This is a prestigious hospital, not some community clinic. Patients complain about your urban attitude." Maria Gonzalez, a charge nurse, glanced up from her computer. She pulled out her phone discreetly, opening Instagram Live. The notification appeared. "Y'all need to see this racism happening at St. Catherine's Hospital right now." 2 viewers joined immediately, then 7, then 23. Dr. Patterson, reviewing labs nearby, shifted uncomfortably but stayed silent. In the waiting area, Mrs. Carter looked up from her magazine, frowning. Her grandson started recording on his phone. "Security will escort you out in 10 minutes, Karen announced, checking her Apple Watch. "Don't make this harder than it needs to be." Amara remained calm, pulling out a leather notebook with gold initials. AJ. She began writing methodically. Her keychain caught fluorescent light, a black American Express card partially visible among regular keys. "Karen, can you state your full name and title for the record?" Amara asked quietly. "Are you threatening me?" Karen laughed. "Honey, I'm Karen Matthews, nursing supervisor level 4. I have been here for 15 years. You have what, 6 months?" 8 months, Amara corrected, still writing. "What specific policy violations are you citing?" Karen rolled her eyes theatrically. "Policy? Girl, this isn't about policy. This is about fit, cultural fit. You people always make everything about rules and lawyers." Maria's live stream viewer count climbed, 47, 89, 156. Comments flooded in. "This is 2024. Sue them. Get her name." A young black nursing student, Jasmine, stood frozen by the supply closet. Tears gathered in her eyes. Her fists clenched slowly. "And don't think about applying anywhere else in this city," Karen continued, her voice dripping with satisfaction. "I have connections. Your career in prestigious healthcare is over." Dr. Sarah Kim, an attending physician, approached cautiously. "Karen, perhaps we should discuss this privately." "No need," Karen cut her off. "This is a teaching moment. Standards matter here." Amara looked up from her notebook. "Have you consulted with the board of directors about this decision?" Karen laughed, a sharp, dismissive sound. "Board of directors? Honey, they don't care about your little feelings. I am the authority here. I decide who stays and who goes." 8 minutes left. Maria's phone showed 312 viewers and climbing. The hospital's main phone began ringing constantly. Janet Webb, assistant administrator, hurried toward the commotion, looking confused. "What's happening here?" Janet asked breathlessly. "Handling a personnel issue," Karen replied smoothly. "Nothing you need to worry about." Janet's brow furrowed. She didn't remember any termination discussions. Amara continued taking notes, her pen moving steadily across expensive paper. Her phone, the latest iPhone in custom leather buzzed with notifications she ignored. First-class airline tickets peeked from her purse. Chicago Medical Conference, premium class, a Johnson. 6 minutes, Karen announced triumphantly. Luis Martinez, one of the security guards approaching reluctantly, squinted at Amara. Something familiar nagged at him, but he couldn't place it. "Ma'am," he said gently, "I'm sorry, but we need you to collect your things." His partner Mike looked equally uncomfortable. Neither had been given details, just told to escort someone out. The waiting area had gone quiet. 4 families now watched the scene unfold. Phones recorded from multiple angles. Mrs. Carter whispered to her grandson in Mandarin, shaking her head disapprovingly. Dr. Patterson finally spoke. "Karen, maybe we should wait for HR." "HR works for me," Karen snapped. "They'll rubber stamp whatever I decide." Amara stood slowly, notebook still in hand. She walked to her locker, entering the combination with steady fingers. Inside, a Harvard Medical School diploma in a protective sleeve, business cards, and what appeared to be legal documents. She slipped the diploma into her purse alongside the airline tickets. 4 minutes, Karen called out, addressing her audience more than Amara. "Let this be a lesson. Standards matter here. This is what happens when affirmative action places people where they don't belong." The words hung in the air like poison. Maria's live stream exploded. 1,247 viewers. Number sign St. Catherine's racism began trending locally. The hospital's social media notifications went wild. Jasmine, the nursing student, found her voice. "This isn't right." "Excuse me?" Karen whirled around. "I said this isn't right." She's one of the best nurses here. Everyone knows that. "Well, everyone doesn't make hiring decisions," Karen retorted. "And neither do students. Remember that when you apply for jobs. 2 minutes left." Amara closed her locker quietly. She turned to face the crowd staff, patients' families, security guards, all watching. Some with phones, others with troubled expressions. Karen checked her watch again, savoring the moment. "Time's almost up. Security, please escort her out, now." All eyes turned to Amara. The room held its breath, waiting for tears, for pleading, for the breakdown they expected. Instead, Amara smiled slightly and walked toward the main corridor. But she didn't head for the exit. She walked to the hospital's information board. "Where are you going?" Karen demanded, her voice sharp with irritation. "The exit is the other way." Amara didn't respond. She approached the locked display case marked Hospital Administration and reached into her keychain. Among the regular keys was a small, distinctive one that glinted under the hallway lights. "Hey!" Karen started after her. "You can't just—" The key slid smoothly into the lock. The case opened with a soft click. Maria's live stream count hit 1,847. Comments poured in faster than she could read. "What's she doing? Is that legal? She has a key?" Dr. Kim stepped closer, confusion evident on her face. Janet Webb pulled out her phone, frantically scrolling through emails and memos. Had she missed something? Luis, the security guard, felt that nagging recognition intensified. Where had he seen this woman before? Not here at the hospital, somewhere important, somewhere that mattered. Amara opened the administration folder inside the case. Her movements were deliberate, unhurried. She removed a professional headshot from her purse, not a hospital ID photo, but something that belonged in corporate boardrooms. "Stop her!" Karen hissed to security. "She's vandalizing hospital property." But Luis held up his hand. Something was very wrong here. Or very right. He couldn't tell which. The viewer count on Maria's stream reached 2,100. Local hashtags started forming. Hashtag what is happening. Hashtag St. Catherine's Hospital. Hashtag plot twist. Amara placed her photograph at the top of the Board of Directors section. Beneath it, she added a small placard that had been hidden in her notebook. Dr. Amara Johnson, MD, MBA, Chairman of the Board and Primary Shareholder. The hallway went dead silent. Karen's face was drained of color. That can't be real. But Amara wasn't finished. She pulled out her business card's elegant, expensive card stock and placed one in the information slot. Johnson Medical Holdings, Healthcare Investment and Reform, 67% ownership of St. Catherine's healthcare system. Dr. Patterson's chart clattered to the floor. Janet Webb's phone slipped from her trembling fingers. Luis whispered to his partner, Mike, "Oh my God." "That's Dr. Johnson. My daughter has her picture in our wallet. She donated money to the school district." The live stream viewer count exploded past 3,000. Comments became a waterfall of shock and celebration. Karen stood frozen, mouth slightly open, watching her entire world reshape itself in real time. The silence stretched like a held breath. 15 seconds. 20. Karen's voice came out as a croak. That's not possible. You're just a nurse. You can't be... Amara turned slowly, her expression unchanged. "Actually, Karen, I'm a Harvard-trained physician and this hospital's majority owner. I've been working here to understand our workplace culture firsthand." The words hit like a physical blow. Karen stumbled backward, her designer heel catching on the linoleum. Maria's live stream exploded past 5,000 viewers. Comments became a blur. "She owns the hospital." "Plot twist. Karen is done." Dr. Patterson approached cautiously, his face pale. "Dr. Johnson? Dr. Johnson who published the Medicare reform papers?" "That's correct." Amara's voice remained steady. Janet Webb finally found her voice. But your employee file says exactly what I wanted it to say." Amara pulled out her real business card. "Johnson Medical Holdings acquired this facility 18 months ago. I've been conducting what you might call field research." Luis, the security guard, snapped his fingers. "That's where I know you from. You spoke at my daughter's graduation. You donated $2 million to our school district." His hand moved instinctively to his wallet, where a newspaper clipping showed Amara in an elegant suit, shaking hands with the mayor. Karen's breathing became shallow. "This is impossible." "You wore scrubs. You worked night shifts. You cleaned bedpans." "I did." Amara's tone held no mockery, only quiet fact. "How else would I learn what really happens here?" The crowd around them grew. Nurses, technicians, doctors drawn by the commotion and Maria's viral live stream. Someone had called the local news. Channel 7's van was pulling into the parking lot. Dr. Sarah Kim stepped forward hesitantly. "Dr. Johnson, I had no idea. Your work on healthcare equity, it's required reading in our residency program." "Thank you." Amara's acknowledgement was gracious but brief. Her attention returned to Karen, who stood frozen like a deer in headlights. "This has to be some kind of joke," Karen whispered, but her voice lacked conviction. Amara pulled out her phone, that expensive iPhone in custom leather. She speed-dialed a number. "Patricia?" "Yes, it's Dr. Johnson. Please prepare the emergency board meeting materials for 5 p.m. today. Full board attendance required." Once she paused, listening. "Yes, the discrimination incident I mentioned. It's happening now." Karen's knees nearly buckled. The live stream count hit 8,000. St. Catherine's. Reveal was trending statewide. Local news outlets began calling the hospital's main line, which rang constantly in the background. Jasmine, the nursing student, stepped closer. Her voice trembled with awe. "You're really her?" "Dr. Johnson, who created the Minority Scholarship Program." "I am." You paid for my entire nursing school tuition." The revelation sent another ripple through the crowd. Phones appeared everywhere, recording from every angle. The story was spiraling beyond the hospital walls, picked up by Twitter, Facebook, TikTok. Karen finally found her voice. "Dr. Johnson, please, there's been a misunderstanding. I thought, surely you can understand my position." "Your position?" Amara's eyebrow raised slightly. "Well, I didn't know. How could I know? You look like—" Karen trailed off, realizing every word made it worse. "Like what, Karen?" The question hung in the air. Karen's mouth opened and closed soundlessly. Dr. Patterson broke the uncomfortable silence. "Dr. Johnson, I owe you an apology. I should have spoken up earlier." "Yes, you should have." Amara's words were simple, direct, no emotion, no judgment, just fact. Janet Webb rushed forward, her administrative instincts kicking in. "Dr. Johnson, I had no knowledge of this incident. If I had known—" "But you didn't know, did you, Janet? Even though I filed 3 formal reports about discriminatory behavior in this unit over the past 2 months. Janet's face went white. "Those reports came from A. Johnson in the nursing department. I assumed. You assumed they weren't worth investigating because they came from a nurse." The indictment was gentle but devastating. Maria continued live streaming, her viewer count approaching 12,000. Comments poured in from across the country. "Justice is coming. This is epic. Karen is about to get fired by her own employee." News vans from 3 local stations now crowded the parking lot. Hospital security was setting up barriers to control the growing crowd of onlookers drawn by social media. Karen made one last, desperate attempt. "Dr. Johnson, I have a mortgage. Kids in college. I was just trying to maintain standards." "Standards?" Amara's voice remained level. "Let's review those standards, shall we? I graduated summa cum laude from Harvard Medical School, completed my residency at Johns Hopkins, published 23 peer-reviewed papers on healthcare reform, led quality improvement initiatives in 4 states. Each credential landed like a hammer blow. What standards exactly did I fail to meet?" Karen had no answer. The crowd pressed closer. Phones captured every moment. The story had taken on a life of its own, spreading across social media platforms faster than the hospital's crisis management team could respond. Luis stepped closer to his partner, Mike. "Man, we're about to witness something historic." Mike nodded grimly. "Yeah, someone's about to lose everything." Amara glanced at her phone. "Karen, the emergency board meeting convenes in conference room A at 5 p.m. That's 1 hour from now." She looked around at the assembled crowd staff members, patients' families, security guards, all watching with rapt attention. "I believe everyone deserves to see how this resolves." The live stream hit 15,000 viewers. Karen Matthews realized her career wasn't just ending. It was imploding in real time, broadcast to thousands of people. And there was still an hour left before the board meeting. Dr. Kim pulled out her own phone, frantically Googling Dr. Amara Johnson Medical Holdings. Her eyes widened as results populated. Forbes articles, Harvard Business Review features, medical journal publications. The woman standing in scrubs before them was a healthcare industry powerhouse. "Dr. Johnson," she said quietly, "your paper on reducing hospital readmission rates, we implemented your protocols here last year. They saved us over $3 million. "I know," Amara replied simply. "I reviewed the quarterly reports." Another wave of realization swept through the crowd. She hadn't just been working among them, she'd been evaluating everything. Karen's supervisor facade crumbled completely. Her voice became pleading. "Please, Dr. Johnson. I have 15 years of service here. 15 years. I was just following protocols." "Which protocols?" Amara opened her leather notebook. Section 4.2 of our employee handbook, which I authored, prohibits discriminatory language in the workplace. Section 7.1 requires documentation before any disciplinary action. Section 12.3 mandates HR consultation for terminations. She read directly from her notes. You violated all three, Karen, in front of witnesses, on live stream, while using racial language. The legal implications hit everyone simultaneously. This wasn't just workplace drama anymore. This was a discrimination lawsuit waiting to happen, documented by thousands of viewers. Maria's phone showed 18,500 viewers. Comments scrolled too fast to read, but the sentiment was clear. Justice was about to be served. A new commotion stirred near the hospital entrance. Through the glass doors, they could see reporters setting up cameras. The story had leaked beyond social media. Mainstream news was arriving. Hospital CEO Richard Brennan burst through the crowd, still in his golf clothes. Someone had clearly called him off the course. He spotted Amara and stopped short. Dr. Johnson. His greeting held a mixture of respect and barely concealed panic. I came as soon as I heard. Richard. Amara's acknowledgement was cool. Perfect timing. You'll want to be present for the board discussion. Brennan's eyes darted to Karen, then to the phones recording everything, then to the news crews visible outside. His career was potentially on the line, too. Perhaps we should move this to a private conference room, he suggested weakly. Why? Amara's question was innocent. Karen felt comfortable conducting her business publicly. I see no reason for privacy now. The crowd murmured appreciation. Justice delivered in daylight, not hidden behind closed doors. Dr. Patterson approached Amara cautiously. Dr. Johnson, I want you to know that not everyone here shares Karen's perspective. I'm aware, Amara said. That's why I spent 8 months observing. I know exactly who shares what perspectives. The statement sent a chill through several staff members. How many others had she been watching, evaluating, taking notes on? Karen made one final attempt at damage control. Dr. Johnson, surely we can resolve this professionally. I'm willing to apologize publicly. Take sensitivity training. Whatever you think is appropriate. Amara studied her for a long moment. The crowd waited. Karen, do you know what our hospital's patient satisfaction scores were when I acquired it? The sudden topic change caught everyone off guard. No. 67%. Industry bottom quartile. Do you know what they are now? Karen shook her head. 91%. Top 5% nationally. Do you know the single biggest factor in that improvement? Silence. Staff diversity and cultural competency. The very things you just told 15,000 live stream viewers don't matter in prestigious healthcare. The business case was devastating. Karen hadn't just been discriminatory, she'd been actively working against the hospital's success. News crews were now setting up just outside the main entrance. The story had officially gone viral. #HospitalOwnerReveal was trending nationally. Amara checked her watch. 57 minutes until the board meeting. Karen, I suggest you use that time wisely. The next 50 minutes passed like a slow-motion disaster for Karen. News crews interviewed hospital staff in the parking lot. Maria's live stream had been picked up by major news outlets. The #Justice at St. Catherine's was trending across 3 platforms, but Amara wasn't finished revealing her cards. At 4:55 p.m., she walked calmly to Conference Room A. The boardroom's glass walls had been covered for privacy, but the main corridor buzzed with anticipation. Staff members lingered, finding excuses to work nearby. Karen sat in the hallway on a bench, her designer blazer wrinkled, makeup smudged. She'd spent the hour making frantic phone calls to attorneys, friends, anyone who might help. None had. CEO Brennan emerged from his office, straightening his hastily changed suit. He'd been on emergency calls with the hospital's board members, legal team, and PR firm, R. The damage was spreading faster than they could contain it. Dr. Johnson, he approached tentatively. The board is assembled. All 7 members are present, either in person or via video conference. Excellent. Amara held a thick folder now documents that hadn't been in her nurse's locker. The conference room door opened. Through the brief gap, Karen glimpsed a mahogany table surrounded by well-dressed individuals she recognized from hospital promotional materials. Board members, people whose decisions shaped her career, people who apparently worked for the woman she'd just tried to fire. Dr. Patricia Williams, Chief of Internal Medicine, was the first to speak when Amara entered. Dr. Johnson, we came as soon as we received your call. I've reviewed the incident documentation you sent. Thank you, Patricia. Amara took her seat at the head of the table, a chair Karen now realized had always been hers. Through the conference room's video screen, 3 board members joined remotely. Dr. Marcus Thompson from Seattle, Attorney Sarah Carter from the legal firm, and CFO David Rodriguez from their Chicago office. Before we address today's specific incident, Amara began, opening her folder, I want to review why we implemented our undercover assessment program. She clicked a remote. The wall screen displayed a PowerPoint presentation that had clearly been prepared long in advance. Slide 1. Patient satisfaction scores by demographic. Notice the significant disparity in satisfaction ratings between white patients and patients of color. 18 percentage points lower for black patients, 14 points lower for Hispanic patients. Board members leaned forward, studying the data. Slide 2. Staff turnover rates. We lose 34% of minority nursing staff within their first year. Exit interviews consistently cite cultural issues and lack of advancement opportunities. Dr. Thompson spoke from Seattle. Dr. Johnson, are you suggesting systematic discrimination? I'm not suggesting it, Marcus. I'm documenting it. The next slide showed an organizational chart. Slide 3. Leadership demographics. Of 15 department supervisor positions, 14 are held by white employees. Of those 14, 9 have documented complaints regarding discriminatory behavior. Karen's name appeared highlighted in red. Karen Matthews, 7 formal complaints filed over 2 years. 3 by black employees, 2 by Hispanic employees, 2 by Asian employees. All complaints were dismissed by her immediate supervisor as personality conflicts. The room fell silent except for the hum of air conditioning. Her immediate supervisor? Dr. Carter asked from the video screen. Assistant Administrator Janet Webb, who admittedly never investigated the reports because they came from nursing staff. The legal implications were staggering. Systematic discrimination, pattern of behavior, documented complaints ignored by administration. CFO Rodriguez pulled up numbers on his tablet. Dr. Johnson, what's our potential exposure here? Conservatively, 8 to 12 million in discrimination settlements. More problematically, we risk losing our Joint Commission accreditation if this pattern continues. The room's atmosphere shifted. This wasn't just about Karen anymore. This was about the hospital's survival. Which brings me to today's incident. Amara clicked to the next slide. Recorded live stream viewed by over 40,000 people. Racial language used publicly. Termination attempted without cause, documentation, or HR consultation. She paused, letting the weight settle. Karen Matthews called me ghetto on camera. She claimed I was placed here through affirmative action. She boasted about having connections to destroy my healthcare career. All of this was broadcast live and is now preserved permanently online. Board member Dr. Jennifer Walsh, attending in person, spoke carefully. Dr. Johnson, what outcome are you seeking? This was the moment everyone had been waiting for. Karen, watching from the hallway, held her breath. I want systematic change, Amara said simply. This incident is a symptom, not the disease. She clicked to her final slide. The Johnson Equity Protocol. Mandatory bias training for all supervisory staff. Anonymous reporting system accessible via mobile app. Diversity requirements for all leadership positions. External auditing of hiring and promotion practices. The board members exchanged glances. These weren't punitive measures, they were comprehensive reforms. And regarding Karen Matthews specifically? Dr. Williams asked. Amara paused, considering. Through the glass, she could see Karen waiting in the hallway, surrounded by the wreckage of her career. That depends on Karen herself. The conference room door opened. Amara gestured for Karen to enter. Karen walked in on unsteady legs, her world having completely collapsed in the span of 2 hours. Sit down, Karen. Karen took the chair at the far end of the table as far from Amara as possible. You have 2 choices, Amara said, her voice calm but carrying absolute authority. Option 1, immediate resignation with a neutral reference and standard severance package. You publicly apologize for your conduct and commit to completing a comprehensive diversity training program at your own expense. Karen nodded frantically. Yes, absolutely. I'll do whatever. I'm not finished. Amara's interruption was gentle but firm. Option 2, termination for cause. Your actions will be documented in your permanent employment record. The discrimination lawsuit that this incident will inevitably generate will name you personally as a defendant. The choice wasn't really a choice at all. Furthermore, Amara continued, your conduct has exposed this institution to significant legal and financial risk. Our insurance carriers will be notified. Your professional references will accurately reflect today's events. Karen's face was white. Her 15 years of healthcare management experience would be worthless if she couldn't get references. However, Amara said, and Karen looked up with desperate hope, if you choose option 1 and genuinely commit to change, if you complete the training, issue a sincere public apology, and demonstrate real growth, your reference will reflect your years of service here, not just today's incident. It was more mercy than Karen deserved, and everyone in the room knew it. Dr. Johnson, Karen's voice was barely a whisper. I chose option 1. I'm sorry. I'm so very sorry. But Amara held up one finger. There was still more. There's something else you should know, Karen. The room held its breath. The reason I could afford to buy this hospital? The reason Johnson Medical Holdings has $47 million in healthcare investments? Karen waited, dreading whatever was coming next. I developed and sold 3 medical software companies before I turned 35. Companies that revolutionized patient care management. Companies whose software this very hospital uses every day. The final twist hit like a physical blow. Not only was Karen's victim the owner of the hospital, she was one of the most successful healthcare entrepreneurs in the country. Your ghetto colleague, Karen, has generated more value for American healthcare than most people could in 10 lifetimes. Karen buried her face in her hands and began to cry. The boardroom fell silent except for Karen's quiet sobbing. Even the remote participants seemed uncomfortable, their video windows showing awkward expressions. Dr. Williams was the first to speak. Dr. Johnson, your software suite Metaflow Pro, we implemented it system-wide last year. It reduced our documentation time by 40%. I'm aware. Amara's tone remained neutral. I've been reviewing implementation reports during my time here. User adoption has been excellent, though I noticed some staff resistance in certain departments. She didn't need to specify which departments. Everyone understood. CFO Rodriguez leaned forward. Dr. Johnson, for context, your software companies generated how much revenue before acquisition? Patient Core sold to IBM for $87 million. Mediflow was acquired by Epic Systems for $123 million. CareSync went public and is currently valued at $400 million. The numbers hung in the air like indictments. Karen had dismissed a woman whose innovations touched millions of patients daily. Board member Dr. Walsh cleared her throat. Karen, did you research Dr. Johnson's background before today's incident? Karen looked up, mascara streaking her cheeks. No. She worked nights. She wore scrubs. I thought she was just another nurse. Just another nurse, Dr. Thompson repeated from Seattle, his voice carrying judgment. I didn't mean... Karen started, then stopped. Every word made it worse. Amara consulted her notes. Karen, you also mentioned having connections that would end my healthcare career. Can you elaborate? Karen's face flushed red. I was angry. I didn't really have any connections that could hurt you. So you were lying? Yes. The admission came out as a whisper. Lying to intimidate someone you believed was powerless. Karen nodded miserably. Attorney Carter spoke from the video screen. Dr. Johnson, from a legal perspective, we're looking at clear-cut discrimination, intimidation, and abuse of authority. Ms. Matthews is fortunate you're offering option 1. I understand the legal ramifications, Sarah. Amara turned back to Karen. But I'm more interested in preventing future incidents than punishing past ones. She clicked to a new slide. Karen, your department has the worst minority retention rate in the hospital. 78% of non-white staff request transfers within 6 months. Did you ever wonder why? Karen shook her head. Because of the environment you created. The subtle comments, the different standards, the assumption that diversity equals lowered quality. The data was devastating, presented without emotion, but with surgical precision. Dr. Williams added, Karen, 3 excellent nurses requested transfers from your unit just last month. All cited cultural issues. I was trying to maintain standards, Karen said weakly. Whose standards? Amara asked. The standards that led to our previous 67% patient satisfaction rate? The standards that created a toxic work environment? The standards that violated federal anti-discrimination law? Each question landed like a hammer blow. CEO Brennan shifted uncomfortably. Dr. Johnson, how do we move forward from here? Amara looked around the table, at board members who'd trusted her vision, at executives scrambling to contain damage, at a woman whose prejudices had nearly destroyed her own career. Karen makes her choice. Now, on the record, in front of witnesses. The ultimatum was delivered without theatrics, but its finality was absolute. Karen looked around the room at faces ranging from sympathetic to disgusted to professionally neutral. Her 15 years of healthcare management had led to this moment, begging for mercy from the woman she'd tried to humiliate. I choose option 1, she said clearly. I resign immediately. I'll complete whatever training you require. I'll issue a public apology. And She paused, struggling with the words. I'll try to understand how wrong I was. Amara nodded once. Dr. Williams will coordinate your resignation paperwork. Your public statement will be reviewed by our communications team before release. The diversity training program requires 6 months of participation. She closed her folder. This meeting is concluded. As board members began filing out, Amara addressed Karen one final time. Karen, you have a chance to grow from this. Don't waste it. Karen nodded, unable to speak. Outside in the corridor, news crews waited. Social media buzzed with updates. The story had grown beyond a workplace incident. It had become a symbol of justice served and systems changed. But for Amara, the real work was just beginning. Karen's resignation was just the beginning. By 6 p.m., #HospitalOwnerReveal had generated over 2.3 million views. Major news outlets called for interviews. The hospital's reputation hung in the balance, but Amara had been preparing for this moment. Schedule an all-hands meeting for tomorrow morning, she told Dr. Williams. 7 a.m., everyone attends. Everyone? Doctors, nurses, technicians, administrative staff, security, everyone. The next morning, St. Catherine's Auditorium filled beyond capacity. Staff lined the walls when seats ran out. News cameras positioned discreetly in the back. Amara took the stage wearing professional attire instead of scrubs. The transformation was striking. Gone was the humble night shift nurse, replaced by the confident healthcare executive she'd always been. "Good morning. I'm Dr. Amara Johnson, chairman of the board and primary shareholder. For 8 months, I've worked among you to understand our workplace culture firsthand." The auditorium buzzed with whispers. "What I discovered concerns me deeply. We have systemic problems beyond any single individual. Yesterday's incident was a symptom, not the cause." She clicked to her first slide. Patient satisfaction by staff demographics. Departments with diverse leadership outperform homogeneous departments by 23 percentage points. Murmurs rippled through the audience. Slide 2. Financial impact. Our minority-led units generate 18% higher profit margins due to improved efficiency and reduced turnover. CFO Rodriguez nodded from the front row. The business case for diversity isn't just morally correct, it's financially essential. Discrimination costs us money. Next slide, the Johnson Equity Protocol, effective today. First, zero-tolerance discrimination policy. Any supervisor using discriminatory language faces immediate suspension. She paused, letting that settle. Second, all supervisory staff complete 40 hours of mandatory bias training within 60 days. Comprehensive education on unconscious bias and inclusive leadership. Some managers looked uncomfortable. Third, anonymous reporting system. We launched the Equity Watch mobile app next week. Reports go directly to my office with guaranteed 24-hour response. Janet Webb, who'd ignored previous discrimination reports, visibly paled. Fourth, leadership diversity requirements. Within 6 months, all departments must have management reflecting our patient demographics. Dr. Kim raised her hand. How will you measure success? Monthly diversity audits with public reporting. Quarterly patient satisfaction surveys by demographics. Annual culture assessments by external firms. The precision was intentional. Vague commitments meant no change. Fifth, financial investment. We're allocating $500,000 annually for diversity initiatives, including scholarships and mentorship programs. Maria, who'd live-streamed the incident, looked amazed. Some wonder if this is retaliation for yesterday's events. It's not. Amara showed documentation with dates. These reforms have been in development for 6 months. Yesterday provided the catalyst for immediate implementation. I worked undercover because executive assessments produce sanitized results. People behave differently around authority. I needed unfiltered truth. Dr. Thompson spoke from the video screen. What about staff who resist changes? Change is mandatory. Adaptation is optional. Staff who can't embrace inclusive practices will find opportunities elsewhere. Jasmine, the nursing student, raised her hand. Will this affect patient care quality? Diverse teams make fewer medical errors. They catch mistakes homogeneous groups miss. These changes enhance quality, not diminish it. She showed research. Studies from Johns Hopkins, Mayo Clinic, and Harvard Medical show correlation between staff diversity and patient safety. Implementation starts Monday. Equity Watch launches Tuesday. Training schedules distributed Wednesday. Diversity audits begin Thursday. The rapid timeline prevented resistance from organizing. Dr. Williams stood. What support will management receive? Each department head gets a dedicated diversity consultant for 90 days. We're partnering with Harvard Business School's Inclusion Institute. Luis, the security guard, spoke up. What about hourly workers? Everyone gets training. Cultural competency isn't just for management. Final point, accountability. I'll conduct monthly unannounced walkabouts to observe our culture. The undercover assessment wasn't one time, it's ongoing. The message was clear. Oversight would be constant. This hospital can model healthcare equity nationwide. We have resources, talent, and commitment. The question is whether we have courage. She closed her presentation. Department heads remain for implementation planning. Everyone else, thank you. As staff filed out, conversations buzzed with excitement and concern. The 15 department heads who remained represented the hospital's leadership backbone. Amara studied their faces, apprehension mixed with determination. "Let's be direct," she began. "Some of you supported discriminatory practices through silence. Others actively participated. A few tried to intervene but lacked authority. The room was uncomfortable, but honesty was necessary. Dr. Kim spoke first. "I should have said something during Karen's incident. I was concerned about overstepping. Boundaries that allowed discrimination to flourish," Amara replied without malice. "That changes now. Every leader has authority to intervene." She distributed thick folders. "Your implementation packages contain department-specific action plans. Review them tonight." Janet Webb raised her hand. "How do we handle staff claiming changes are too fast?" "Change is uncomfortable, but maintaining the status quo was devastating our culture and costing millions in turnover. Fast implementation prevents organized resistance." She showed financial projections. "Conservative estimates show these reforms will save $4 million annually in reduced turnover, improved efficiency, and enhanced patient satisfaction. Furthermore, our insurance premiums will decrease significantly once we demonstrate systematic bias prevention." CFO. Rodriguez nodded approvingly. Dr. Carter looked worried. 40 hours training in 60 days seems ambitious. We're hiring temporary supervisors for coverage during training. No department will be understaffed. Tom Bradley asked about the Equity Watch app. How do we prevent misuse for petty complaints? Built-in filtering reviews all reports. Frivolous complaints are flagged automatically. Serious issues get immediate escalation. Resistance is expected and manageable, Amara said. Document it, address through training, escalate persistent cases to HR. We're changing culture, not personalities. She leaned forward. I spent 8 months watching dedicated professionals tolerate intolerable behavior because they felt powerless. That ends now. Dr. Williams asked, what if these reforms don't work? Amara smiled slightly. Failure isn't an option. We have data, resources, executive commitment, and public accountability. The meeting concluded with clear assignments and expectations. As managers filed out, Amara remained behind, reviewing notes. The transformation she'd envisioned was beginning. Her phone buzzed with updates. The viral video had evolved beyond discrimination. It was becoming a case study in corporate accountability. 3 other hospital systems had called requesting consultation. Universities were incorporating the incident into healthcare management curricula. But Amara knew the real test lay ahead. Announcing reforms was straightforward. Sustaining them required vigilance and unwavering commitment. She thought about Karen, who'd submitted her resignation that morning. The woman's career had imploded in 48 hours, but she'd been given redemption through training. Dr. Williams returned. Staff reactions are mostly positive. Some are concerned about speed, but overall enthusiasm is high. Expected, Amara replied. Enthusiasm is easy. Consistency is harder. We'll see true commitment when cameras leave and novelty wears off. The board wants a progress report in 30 days. They'll have detailed metrics. Numbers don't lie about cultural change. Patricia asked, why did you choose nursing for undercover work? Amara considered. Nurses are the hospital's backbone. They interact with every department, every hierarchy level, every patient type. If you want to understand healthcare culture, you study nursing culture. And Karen? Karen was inevitable. Systems that tolerate discrimination always produce Karens. Our job isn't preventing individual bias, It's creating structures that make discriminatory behavior impossible to sustain. CNN called requesting an interview. Amara declined. Not yet. Let reforms prove themselves first. Success speaks louder than interviews. Tomorrow would bring implementation challenges and resistance. But for the first time in 8 months, she felt optimistic about St. Catherine's future. The viral humiliation had become the catalyst for industry-leading reform. 3 months later, the changes at St. Catherine's Hospital were undeniable. Karen Matthews had completed her diversity training program in Chicago and issued a public apology that garnered 1.2 million views. Her statement was genuine, vulnerable, and transformative, not just for her, but for viewers who recognized their own biases in her words. "I thought I was maintaining standards," she said directly to the camera. "Instead, I was maintaining barriers." Dr. Johnson taught me the difference between excellence and exclusion. The hospital's transformation was measurable in hard data. Patient satisfaction scores had climbed from 91% to 96% now, ranking in the top 1% nationally. The improvement was most dramatic among patients of color, whose satisfaction ratings increased by 34 percentage points. Staff turnover among minority employees dropped from 34% to 8%. Exit interviews, when they occurred, cited career advancement opportunities rather than cultural issues. The Equity Watch app had processed 127 reports in its first quarter. 83 were resolved at the department level through coaching and additional training. 12 required formal HR intervention. 3 resulted in terminations for persistent discriminatory behavior. Most importantly, 39 reports were compliments staff members, recognizing colleagues who demonstrated exceptional inclusive behavior. Maria Gonzalez, whose live stream had started everything, was promoted to charge nurse with a 15% salary increase. She'd also started a healthcare advocacy blog that attracted 50,000 monthly readers. "Dr. Johnson didn't just change our hospital," she wrote in her latest post. "She showed us how one person with courage can transform an entire system." Jasmine, the nursing student who'd received a full scholarship through the Diversity Fund, was excelling in her final semester. She'd been accepted to 3 graduate programs and planned to specialize in healthcare equity research. Luis Martinez, the security guard who'd recognized Amara, had a different kind of success story. His daughter received a full scholarship to medical school through the Johnson Medical Holdings Educational Foundation. "Dr. Johnson remembered our conversation," he told anyone who'd listen. "She kept her word about supporting our kids' dreams." The ripple effects extended beyond St. Catherine's walls. 47 hospitals across 12 states had implemented modified versions of the Johnson Equity Protocol. Medical schools were incorporating bias recognition training into their standard curricula. Healthcare management programs used the St. Catherine's case study as required coursework. Dr. Amara Johnson had been invited to speak at the National Healthcare Leadership Conference, where her presentation on undercover leadership assessment received a standing ovation. But the real validation came from unexpected sources. Dr. Patterson, the physician who'd remained silent during Karen's discriminatory tirade, approached Amara after a staff meeting 6 weeks into the reforms. "Dr. Johnson, I owe you an apology and a thank you." "Explain." "I was raised to avoid confrontation, especially about race. I told myself that staying quiet was professional neutrality. Your reforms forced me to examine that cowardice." He paused, gathering courage to continue. "Last week, I witnessed Dr. Carter making inappropriate comments about a black resident's competence. Instead of staying silent, I intervened immediately and reported it through Equity Watch." How did that feel? Terrifying at first, then empowering. I realized that silence wasn't neutral, it was complicit. Dr. Carter had been required to complete additional bias training and was now one of the program's strongest advocates, crediting the intervention with preventing a career-damaging pattern of behavior. The hospital's financial performance reflected the cultural transformation. Revenue increased 12% as word-of-mouth referrals grew, particularly within communities of color who'd previously avoided St. Catherine's due to reputation concerns. Malpractice insurance premiums decreased 8% due to improved patient communication and reduced errors. The Joint Commission, healthcare's primary accrediting body, cited St. Catherine's as a model institution for inclusive care delivery during their annual review. Most significantly, employee engagement scores reached record highs. The annual staff survey showed 94% of employees felt respected and valued at work, compared to 67% the previous year. Janet Webb, the assistant administrator who'd initially ignored discrimination reports, had undergone the most dramatic personal transformation. "I thought I was being efficient by dismissing complaints without investigation," she admitted during a leadership team meeting. "I was actually being negligent." The Equity Watch system taught me that every report deserves thorough consideration. She'd become one of the program's most effective advocates, personally responding to every app submission within the required 24-hour window. The diversity training program, initially met with skepticism, had evolved into something unexpected, a competitive advantage. Departments competed to achieve the highest scores on monthly culture assessments. Managers requested additional training modules to improve their team's performance. The program waiting list extended 3 months. "It's like we discovered a secret weapon," explained Tom Bradley, facilities manager. "Inclusive leadership makes everything work better: efficiency, communication, problem-solving, innovation." His department, once notorious for high turnover, hadn't lost a single employee in 4 months. The monthly diversity audits revealed consistent progress across all metrics. Representation in leadership roles had improved from 14% to 31% minority participation. Promotion rates showed no significant demographic disparities. Pay equity analysis revealed and corrected previously hidden salary gaps. But Amara knew the most important changes were often invisible. During her unannounced walkabouts, she observed subtle shifts in behavior: more diverse lunch groups, cross-cultural mentoring relationships, patients of color expressing comfort and trust with staff. The emergency department, previously criticized for cultural insensitivity, now received commendations for culturally competent care. The difference wasn't just training, it was fundamental respect. Dr. Sarah Kim had been promoted to chief of staff, becoming the first Asian American woman to hold the position. Her appointment was based on merit and leadership excellence, but the hospital's new culture made her success possible. "5 years ago, I wouldn't have been considered for this role," she reflected. "Not because I lacked qualifications, but because the system didn't recognize my leadership style as valuable." The reforms had revealed hidden talent throughout the organization. 3 months after implementation, Amara convened the board of directors for a comprehensive review. Patient satisfaction, 96%, up from 67% before our acquisition. Staff retention, 92%, up from 66%. Revenue growth, 12% above projections. Legal liability, 0 discrimination claims filed. The numbers spoke clearly. More importantly, we've created a replicable model. Johnson Medical Holdings is implementing these protocols across our entire portfolio, 14 hospitals in 8 states. Board member Dr. Williams smiled. "Amara, what's next?" "Phase 2. We're launching the Johnson Institute for Healthcare Equity, a research and training center that will serve the entire industry." The vision was ambitious but achievable. St. Catherine's success had proven that systematic change was possible when leadership committed resources and attention to equity. The incident that started this transformation was painful, Amara concluded. But pain often precedes growth. We've proven that discrimination isn't just morally wrong, it's operationally inefficient and financially costly. As the meeting concluded, she reflected on the journey from humiliation to transformation. Karen's discriminatory behavior had been a catalyst, not a cause. The real problem had been systemic tolerance for bias, which created environments where discrimination could flourish. Changing systems required more than good intentions. It demanded data, accountability, resources, and unwavering commitment to justice. St. Catherine's Hospital had become living proof that healthcare equity wasn't just an ideal, it was an achievable, measurable, and profitable reality. 1 year after the incident that changed everything, Dr. Amara Johnson stood before a packed auditorium at Harvard Medical School, delivering the keynote address for their Healthcare Leadership Summit. The video of her humiliation and triumph had been viewed 47 million times across platforms. More importantly, it had sparked a movement. Sometimes the most painful moments create the greatest opportunities for growth, she told the audience of future healthcare leaders. That day in the ICU, I had a choice: seek individual revenge or pursue systematic change. The audience leaned forward, captivated. I chose systems over satisfaction, justice over vengeance, long-term transformation over short-term vindication. St. Catherine's Hospital has become a model for healthcare administrators worldwide. The Johnson Equity Protocol was now implemented in 247 hospitals across 18 countries. Medical schools required courses on bias recognition, but the real impact was measured in individual lives transformed. Karen Matthews had completed her diversity training and now worked as a patient advocate at a community clinic. Her salary was 40% lower than her previous position, but her satisfaction was immeasurably higher. I lost my career, she'd said in a follow-up interview, but I found my purpose. Dr. Johnson gave me a chance to become better instead of bitter. Maria Gonzalez had been accepted to nurse practitioner school on full scholarship. Her healthcare advocacy blog now reached 400,000 monthly readers. Jasmine graduated valedictorian and was pursuing her doctorate in healthcare policy, researching bias prevention in medical education. Luis Martinez's daughter was thriving in her second year of medical school, specializing in emergency medicine with published research on cultural competency. The ripple effects continued expanding. The Johnson Institute for Healthcare Equity had opened with a $50 million endowment, offering research grants and training programs to healthcare organizations worldwide. Healthcare disparities in their network had decreased by 23% in 1 year. Medication errors dropped 31%. Patient satisfaction among minorities increased 45%. Change is not a destination, she continued her Harvard address. It's a daily practice. Every interaction, every hiring decision, every policy review is an opportunity to choose inclusion over exclusion. She paused, looking out at diverse faces representing healthcare's future. The woman who tried to fire me believed she was protecting standards. She wasn't wrong about the importance of standards. She was wrong about what those standards should measure. The audience absorbed the lesson. Excellence isn't threatened by diversity. It's enhanced by it. Innovation doesn't come from comfort. It comes from different perspectives working toward common goals. As her speech concluded, Amara issued her final challenge. You will face moments that test your courage. Moments when staying silent feels safer than speaking up. Moments when maintaining the status quo seem easier than pursuing change. She thought about that day in the ICU when she could have simply walked away quietly. In those moments, remember, you don't need to own a hospital to make a difference. You need courage, conviction, and commitment to justice. The standing ovation lasted 3 minutes. But for Amara, the real applause came from daily emails healthcare workers who'd found courage to report bias, patients who felt respected, young professionals who saw leadership that looked like them. The viral video that started as public humiliation had become a masterclass in transformational leadership. Real power isn't about getting revenge, she'd said in countless interviews. It's about changing systems so the next person doesn't face what you did. The Johnson Equity Protocol had prevented hundreds of discrimination incidents. The Equity Watch app had processed over 50,000 reports, creating the largest database of healthcare bias incidents ever compiled. More importantly, it created a culture where bias was recognized and addressed before causing harm. As Amara left Harvard that evening, she reflected on the journey from humiliation to triumph. Karen's words still echoed sometimes. Pack your ghetto belongings and get out. But they no longer carried pain. They carried purpose. Every hospital implementing equity protocols, every medical student learning bias recognition, every patient receiving culturally competent care was proof that systematic change was possible. The video continued circulating, but its message had evolved. It wasn't just about one woman's triumph. It was about what becomes possible when leaders have both power and principle. Your turn to create change. Have you witnessed workplace discrimination? Share your story in the comments below. Every voice matters in building understanding and accountability. What barriers are you breaking in your industry? Tag us and tell your story. Courage is contagious. Ready to learn more about systematic change in healthcare? Subscribe to Black Voices Uncut for stories of professionals transforming industries through intelligence, integrity, and unwavering commitment to justice. 3 things you can do today. Document bias when you see it. Support minority-owned businesses in your field. Demand diversity metrics from your workplace leadership. Remember, change starts with courage, and courage multiplies when we stand together. The question isn't whether you have power. It's whether you'll use whatever power you have to create the world you want to see. What will your legacy be?
At Black Voices Uncut, we don't polish away the pain or water down the message. We tell it like it is because the truth deserves nothing less. If today's story spoke to you, click like, join the conversation in the comments, and subscribe so you'll be here for the next Uncut Voice.